On iRacing, the Skip Barber Racing School Championship goes all around the world. 3 of those races happen on the continent and the country of Australia. The first one was, of course, at Phillip Island about 2 months ago now, but the final 2 races, they're going to take place down under as well. The first one happens tonight, round number 11 of 12, live here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live from Oran Park. Be sure to join us in a few moments. Welcome back to RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live as race coverage begins here for round number 11, your Skip Barber Racing School Championship, live from Oran Park, the now defunct circuit that has been demolished but still will live on forever on the servers of iRacing thanks to the scanning system. And Alvin, one of the tightest, most tricky circuits in Australia. This track played a huge role in a lot of the big Australian series, most notably, of course, being the V8 Supercars. This is a very tight and twisted racetrack, even for these little Formula 2000 cars. God forbid those big V8 touring cars.
And you know, Randy, it's really a shame that this track really doesn't exist, because this is a really fun track. Perhaps one of the few kind of figure 8 tracks that we have on the world, Suzuka being the other one that I can think of right now. And you know, this track is so much fun, tight and twisty, and like you just said, you know, when you have cars that are so powerful, this track was really a challenge. But today, it is a totally different car that we have today, because these Skip Barbers, yes, they don't have the power, but Randy, they can really go at it.
There's going to be a circuit that really suits these cars well. They are very small, very underpowered, and the other thing to note is that this track is very short. 12 corners just packed into the area of 1.6 miles. You think of another track like, let's say, Sebring, for example, 17 corners on that track and a little over twice the distance there. Same with Road America, that's about a 4.5 mile or so racetrack, about 16, 17 corners there. So a very busy lap here in what is really, you know, just a circuit, Alvin, that's just barely bigger than the size of one of the North American cookie cutter ovals.
And if you think about that, if there is a track that kind of resembles in terms of size and perhaps the number of turns here in North America, is Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. And those 2 tracks, and you know, these 2 tracks kind of have some similar characteristics, especially the change of elevation. Yes, there is no corkscrew here, but there is an S-turn here as soon as you go over the bridge, turn 7, 8, 9, that will really be a challenge. And then that 10, 11 complex that you really have to be on your toes, because once you get into turn 12, going uphill, very important to set up that turn for perhaps the longest straight here on this track.
Now with that, let's go down to your starting grid for round number 11. 20 laps we're going to have around Oran Park. You're going to notice a handful of names missing from who we're used to seeing as we go down this grid. Arjan DeVries takes the pole with Adam Ryland starting on the outside of row number 1. Josh Anderson and Kane Halliburton, they make up row number 2. Carl Dronke and Greg Seitz, they make up the 3rd row, with Andrew Picario and Jeremiah Morton on row number 4. Twan Tron and Justin Tipton, they round out row number 5. Justin Smith and Gorka Rizar, row number 6, with Christian Campanga and Cameron Dance, row 7. Tim Badeau and Jared Marks makes up row number 8, with Vivek Reddy and Joao Oliveira rounding out the 18 car field today. Like we said, Couple of the big hitters not really here and turning out today. No Johnny Gundy, no Felipe Bear. They're the year 2 championship leaders. Johnny Gundy leads by a little under, actually take that back, bit over 100 points over Felipe Bear in the championship, and LeBear had a further 150 or so point lead over Greg Seitz. Those two taking one of their drop weeks today in Australia. That said, just waiting for all the cars to get themselves on the grid, wait for the revs to build, and then we'll be going green for 20 laps here down in Australia. The revs start to come up. And we are green at Oran Park. It's a decent jump for Arjun Reed, but somebody who also got a rocket start is Adam Rylands, is able to just comfortably slot himself up into P2. Look for everyone to try to get single file on this run into corners number 1 and 2. Very difficult place to make a passing maneuver because this is essentially a single corner that you have to take as a double apex. It's not a very long straightaway between the 2 corners. You see a bit of side by side from about 4th on back. That's Carl Dronke and Kane Halliburton. Now they're going to fight themselves into corner number 3. This very tight right-hander, and the 6 of Halliburton should have the favored line with Dronke trying to work the outside now into corner number 4. And this is going to take you go through this corner, you can maintain good momentum, and you can be able to carry some speed up the hill. We had some contact a little bit deeper in the field. That was number 15 of Jared Marks. We'll get a replay up for that a little bit in just a moment's time. But your leaders out front, Alvin, already starting to check out. We already see a bit of a 3-car breakaway from Arjan DeVries, Adam Rylands, and Joshua Anderson.
A little bit of a breakaway in the end, going back to that incident that you were just talking about, Randy. It was pretty much a little bit of a Constantino effect here, and it kind of looks like the number 15 had to check, and when he tried to get back on the throttle, he kind of tangled just a little bit with, I think it was car number 7 of Christian Kabanga, and that's what sent him spinning around. Fortunately, it kind of seems like he has no damage, so that is good news.
Challenging for the race lead, though, is Adam Rylands, as ran down into corner number 1. He looked to the outside of Arjan DeVries, but not able to make it stick. But Arjan doesn't get corner number 2 hooked up right. Rylands gets to the apex, so look for the 3 machine to maybe make a move down to the 3rd corner, but no, not able to carry enough momentum. Arjan needs to be careful. You can't make mistakes like that all around this racetrack. It's very technical, and when those mistakes start racking up, you'll simply bottleneck all the drivers behind you. Up and over the bridge they come for the 2nd time. Very steep climb, and then you go up and over the top, and a lot of weight gets taken off the car. You go through this fast right-hander now as you're coming through down this downhill right-left, a bit of a fast chicane section really on this racetrack, and that sort of defines the final part of this track. You have a double apex-based chicane, then a 90-degree left-hander, then again you have another fast chicane style section that's going to be taken flat out, and then a very awkward uphill right-hander, Alvin, that although it's close to 180 degrees, being a full 180 degree hairpin, the elevation actually helps you with the fact you're climbing up the hill. You can actually take that corner pretty fast compared to what you might think.
Yeah, it certainly is, and this track is really interesting because once you set your car for the chicanes, it pretty much you have no rest for the next one, because you take those chicanes and then pretty much you are on the brakes trying to get your car set up for the next one. And speaking of getting your car set up just a little bit, a bit of an incident back on the field. Car number 17, Team Baudet, it looks like he had a tangle with Gorka Irizar going into turn number 7.
So unfortunate incident happening a little bit deeper in the field, though. Your leaders go up and over the bridge again. You hear some cars actually, if you listen to some of the back markers, you hear them actually going underneath the bridge as they work themselves now down towards the 2nd half of this lap number 3. And this is something, Alvin, I haven't really seen this season. This, I think, is going to be the shortest lap on the season. 1 minute, 13 seconds, what these little Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars are doing. We have a car slow coming through the chicane off on the racetrack. That's the 12 of Carl Dronke as they work themselves through that final chicane. The 12 still getting passed by cars. He was 4th at the start of this lap, and he comes up the hill for the final corner now. He's going to cycle ahead just in front of Jeremiah Morton, and that's an easy way, Alvin, to drop yourself 4 spots.
And that is what I was talking about, Randy. This track, you really have no chance to rest except for here on the start-finish straight. Pretty much throughout the rest of the track, you have to be always on your toes, because you take one turn and then pretty much as soon as you exit, you gotta set up the car for the next turn. It kind of looks like Carl Dronke was not able to set it up, and he looks like he cut just a little bit of that corner, and well, as a result, he had a slowdown, and now we see the result from P4 all the way to P8.
Don't be so sad, the Bod 76. I'm talking about you as your race leaders, first, second, and third, continue to break away from your leaders, and it's actually a pretty huge pace advantage they have right now over the rest of the pack. You have Andrew Picario, for example, just did a 1:14.0. Compare that to your leaders doing 1:13.2. So we don't typically see this, Alvin. Normally that second pack, they lose a lot of time early and then they equalize, but they're just losing 8 to 9 tenths lap on lap on lap.
It is, Randy, and you know that this track, from most of the tracks that we have been on this season, this is another track that it's all about skill, you know, because you won't have the advantage of the slipstream here. Pretty much only here on the start finish straight. That is the only place that you will really have a place to actually to take advantage of the slipstream. And you know, focusing a little bit on P4 with Andrew Picario and Kane Halliburton. Kane Halliburton really on the brakes, and he's just a little bit of a slide, but able to save it.
Good move there by Kane Halliburton to hold on to that thing. Locked up a rear tire. The car got a little bit loose at the apex of corner number 2. Also going to manage to not lose the spot as they work themselves through the tight right-hander at corner number 3. And again, very single file racetrack here. It's very difficult to actually race at a track like this because it's like we said earlier, it's so short, so many corners. You have a lot of short spurts of straightaway and really only one decently long one, and that's of course the front straight that leads into corner number 1. But Kane Halliburton all over the back of that 9 of Andrew Picario as they work themselves through that first right-left chicane, through this 90-degree left-hander and into the second and final chicane on the lap. That is again pretty much flat out, easy straight line, and then up into the final corner. Let's see, is that 6th machine of Halliburton going to be able to work the slipstream? What little bit you're going to get here. He gets to the apex a little bit better than Picario does, but he doesn't quite come off the corner the way he would like to in the slipstream. Not super strong at this racetrack because the speeds are so low, only just going over about 100 miles an hour. This fight for P4 is close, but Halliburton not going to be close enough to make a move just yet as they work themselves back into corners number 1 and 2. They're going to be single file for about another 1.4 miles.
And you know, Randy, this track, although it's very short, if you had a big powerful car, perhaps you can overcompensate on certain parts, but with this car, it's really all about momentum. And you're pretty much, for Kane Halliburton right now, he is hoping for the slightest mistake from Andrew Picario at any point on the track so that he can take advantage, because the least amount of momentum that you lose on this car, that is all it takes for the car just behind you to take the advantage.
It is definitely important to remember that this is a momentum car, and you know, you don't have the power to make up for any mistakes you might make, especially at the mid corners. You see Halliburton and Picario both push a little bit wide. Just keeping an eye on that lead fight. It's still close, but no one's really gone to make a move just yet. The top 3 have pretty much stayed line astern, as well as really from 4th to about 8th on back. They've just sort of gotten into this single file situation. They've just sort of sat there. No one's really gotten the opportunity to make a move. That said, P2 heating up. Adam Ryland's under attack from the 5 of Joshua Anderson. Power move by Anderson into corner number 1, and very well done to not overshoot that braking zone into corner number 2. Very easy mistake to make here, Alvin, is try to brake super late into corner number 1 and completely screw yourself and miss turn 2 completely and go off the racetrack.
I will say, Randy, that this is more of a home field advantage, because Joshua Anderson, yeah, he is from Australia, so I'm pretty sure he knows this track from like the palm of his hand, and I'm pretty sure he is really excited to come here and race. And that move, yeah, I think it was more of a local knowledge more than anything else. Yes, this track doesn't exist anymore, but that doesn't mean that people from Australia don't know how to race on this track.
The handful of Australians in the field, the best running one is, of course, Joshua Anderson. You also have Arjan de Vries, who's in an Evolution Racing Team car, which their roots come from Australia, from the Evolution Racing Team Australia, what they used to be called until the rebranding earlier this year. So Australians currently, we'll say that Arjan de Vries, who's from Benelux, we'll say he's an honorary Australian here today, running 1-2 as they work down the front straightaway, starting lap number 8, and it's going to be single file this time for your leaders. Let's see, second pack looks like everything's going to remain line astern as well. We have another little bit of a breakaway, Alvin, in this second pack. This was 4 to 5 cars strong. We now only have really 3 machines in it in this second fight, with Picario, Halliburton, and Seitz. Jeremiah Morton not far back, but he's still just a little bit out of touch.
Little bit far, but I think this is pretty much what it takes, especially with the quality of the field that we have in here today. Just to be just a little bit out of touch, I think that is all you need if you're running in a pack to try to go for a breakaway. And this secondary pack, I think this is pretty much what they need if they want to make this into a 3-car breakaway. And, you know, speaking of 3-car breakaways, this leading pack, Adam Rylance kind of seemed that he lost just a little bit of pace on the previous lap, but it looks like he was able to regain all that lost time. So this fight here, this 3-car battle here for the lead, definitely not over.
And actually looking back, the reason we lost a couple cars in that lead group, this is actually a contact between Tuan Tron and Jeremiah Morton through corner number 3, side by side, and Tuan Tron pretty much turned across the nose of Jeremiah Morrison. Then another third car who's basically an innocent bystander, that's the 12 of Carl Dronke, really nowhere to go through the apex of corner number 3, kind of just T-boned Tuan Tron there. So an unfortunate incident, as looking back out front, still close fighting amongst your top 3, but not quite close enough for anyone to really make a move. Definitely relies on mistakes here to try to slip up the inside, as these guys again going to go into corner number 3. And let's see, secondary pack after that incident with Tron spread out as well. So it's going to be, I think, a waiting game here, Alvin, as we're working lap number 9 of 20, not even at the halfway point. We just want to sit. I think for these guys, they just want to wait and be a little bit patient. I think, especially if you're Josh Anderson, showing some good pace, you want to win on home turf, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. You really want to make sure, though, that you can get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, you definitely want to get to the checkered flag. And you know, Randy, speaking of getting to the checkered flag, I think you want to be as aggressive as you can and try to make the moves right now, because, Randy, we have seen on previous races that, yeah, you can stay behind and wait to make the move. But if there is something that we have seen throughout this season and last season as well, these cars really don't like running on the slipstream. And it looks like a battle for the lead here. Joshua Anderson going here for the outside of turn number 1. Let's see if he can make it work. And Joshua, and that goes off track. Oh, really unfortunate.
Oh, and that's a questionable move right there. Arjan de Vries drove all the way out to the white line with the 5 machine side by side with him. I think that's a little bit questionable there from Arjan. And, you know, you could definitely, I think, point the finger that he may have forced Josh Anderson off the racetrack there pretty much unfairly. I think that Anderson was more than alongside, and he had all the right to be to the outside of that corner. You know, the 1 machine, he defended to the inside the way you're always going to be. He gave Anderson the outside, and he just didn't give Anderson the outside when he knew he would be there on the exit of the corner.
Yeah, I think you can really kind of debate what exactly who had the right lane there, and I think you are right there, Randy. I think if they were going side by side, so to me, Joshua Anderson, definitely he shouldn't have given a little bit more space. Fortunately for Joshua Anderson, he was able to save the car and be able to keep it on to go back on track. Yeah, he just that little bit of time, but I think that's really not gonna rattle him, and I think we are going to see him closing to the lead soon.
So your top 2 get close. Adam Rylance sucks right up to the back of the 1 of Arjan de Vries through the slipstream, but wasn't close enough to even think about being able to make a move. So now he just has to try to keep that gap close. They work through really what you could call the infield section of this racetrack, off into the braking zone at corner number 3, the tight, nearly 180-degree right-hander. It's actually interesting, this circuit, handful of hairpin style corners, but none of them are actually 180 degrees. They're all just a little bit less tight than that. Through corner number 4, now up and over the bridge, which is corner number 5, and then down the road just a little bit through corner number 6, there at the exit of the bridge, and then into 7 and 8 at the chicane. And then let's see, Adam Rylance not quite close enough. He hasn't been able to maintain that margin that he got on the run into corner number 1, but as they work themselves down towards the final set of corners through the 10 and 11 chicane and into the corner number 12, I think the number 3 of Rylance is going to be looking to get a good head of steam up this front straightaway. Not a great entrance, but the drive off actually isn't ideal as well. The 1 of Arjan de Vries pulls a little bit of ground exiting the corner and down the front straightaway. The 3 of Rylance, he pulls out of the slipstream, but he's nowhere close enough to make a move stick from that far back, so he's just going to have to try to reset and try to close the gap again, Alvin.
I think that move really has to do more with trying to preserve the health of the engine rather than trying to actually get a move or trying to fill Arjan de Vries' mirrors, because, like we just mentioned earlier, these cars, yeah, they really don't like being that much in the slipstream. So for me, it was more Adam Rylance trying to get a little bit more air into that car, trying to cool it down, so that he can make sure that once we are in 2 lap to go territory, he can really make a move.
that he is, and really that's when you're going to want to make the move at a racetrack like this. You want to do it late, but at the same point, if he gives you an opportunity to potentially get through, you have to try to take it, as these guys are going to come down again through these final sectors. And let's see, a little bit deeper in the field, Precario and Halliburton, they're still close as well, with Greg Seitz just close enough to be a factor. Let's see what happens with these two, the 6 and the 9, fighting for that 4th position up the final corner. It's a mistake from Precario. Halliburton gets up the inside. I certainly know how to pick him, but the momentum on the high line is going to come in to play for Andrew Precario. Halliburton gets into the slipstream about midway down the straightaway, and he might be close enough to make a move. He ducks out a little bit late here, as Greg Seitz thought about making something of it, but no, everyone thinks twice, everyone backs off. So into corner number 1, they're going to stay as they run, but the number 9 of Precario, Alvin, needs to be careful making those mistakes. He didn't get the apex at corner number 2 very good as well. Halliburton might be able to slot it up the inside, but no, not brave enough to do so. Precario making some small mistakes and opening doors that he shouldn't be for Halliburton.
And definitely Andrew Precario got lucky there, because this car, it's all about momentum, and he really lost it from all the places that you really don't want to lose it. He lost it going into the front straight, but I think as he lost it, I think that also affected Kane Halliburton just a little bit, and I think that's why Andrew Precario is still running in P4. But I can guarantee you, if he keeps making mistakes like this, Kane Halliburton is not going to fall twice for the same thing.
Certainly not. Your leaders are going to come now across the stripe to start lap number 14 in a couple moments time. Let's keep an eye on this battle, though, a little bit deeper down the field. Precario doesn't make the same mistake twice. He gets a good clean run off the final corner and down towards that front straightaway. Your leaders are going to stay line astern into corner number 1 as well. And then Precario and Halliburton, same story there. So everyone's still being a little bit patient. Doors not really getting open in good place. It is sort of awkward places where mistakes are getting made, Alvin. The apex at corner number 2, and even the apex of that final corner, the way it's sort of graded as you come up the hill, the camber doesn't really help you if you're stuck to that outside, stuck to that inside line. If you can force the car ahead up and off the apex, you can really carry a lot of speed up at the top. It is almost like a varial banking that you'll get at some of the ovals here in North America.
It is a little bit weird, but the places that most of the drivers here are making mistakes are places that leads you to not so very long straightaway, so the car behind you really can get a run on you. So if you're gonna make little mistakes, those are the places that you want to make it. The place that you don't want to make it, looking at the battle here for the lead, it's coming here, turn number 12. You really don't want to make a mistake here, and Arjen de Vries and Adam Rylands both got good runs.
Pretty much picture perfect amongst your top 3, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Same story as well. I think everyone through this final corner doing it pretty much perfectly here, which is definitely good for them. When that's actually one of the things that makes it so difficult, especially at a track like this, Alvin. All the times are so close. It actually makes it very, very difficult to actually race. Like, for example, Adam Rylands, who qualified 2nd, who's currently chasing down your leader, Arjen de Vries. Those two drivers only separated by a 1/10 of a second. Josh Anderson is only a couple hundredths back. You know, in order to get pretty deep into the field, top 10 drivers only separated by about 4/10 of a second. That's always something, and it's always a factor you have to think about at these short racetracks. You think about Summit Point, and it may not seem like it in some cars, but in the higher end cars, Road to Atlanta is actually a relatively short circuit. You get to those sorts of tracks, and the lap times are always close, and it's always difficult to race people because everyone's so evenly matched.
They are evenly matched, and then you also kind of consider this track. Really, there's I think if I can count them, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 braking points really on this track compared to what you may have on a track like Sebring, where you may have like 10, 12 braking points. And every time you get a braking point, that is really where you can make or you can lose time. And on a track like this, and with this car, really so few places that you actually have to brake, that is where you can really you really have to make and gain your time.
So we saw P number 4 and 5, Precario and Halliburton. Halliburton was close again. Harassed Amirs with a 9 to Precario, but still not quite close enough to be able to make a move. We're now inside of 5 laps to go down under in Australia. Your leaders are working themselves back up the bridge as well, and we're trying to kind of bounce back and forth between these two fights, because the fight for the race lead is close enough that we have to keep an eye on it. But I think the fireworks are likely going to come from this P4, 5, and 6 battle that incorporates Picario, Halliburton, and Seitz. They work out of corner number 6 and into corner number 7, this 90-degree right-hander, and then in through corner number 8 and then 9, which is this 90-degree left-hander. These 3 cars still so close as your leaders getting ready to work themselves up through the final corner. That's how big the gap is. It's about 5-6 seconds, excuse me, 7.5 seconds from P1 to Andrew Picario, the leader of this second group. And as they come up the hill, Halliburton made an oversteer that came up the hill, and that's going to open the door for the 2 of Greg Seitz down this front straightaway, working the slipstream as Seitz, and he ducks out early, as late as he possibly can, and Halliburton's going to give it to him. Not even going to fight the position. Number 2 of Greg Seitz, he's going to get that one easy, move him up into P number 5. That's what you were talking about earlier, Alvin. You can't have a mistake off that final corner. It's the only passing opportunity on track.
Pretty much what we saw there, but also kudos to Kane Halliburton. He knew that he pretty much had that position lost, and really there was no point in trying to fight it going into turn number 1, because Randy, we already saw going into turn number 1 side by side. Yes, you can do it, but there's so much cooperation that is needed between both drivers going into turn number 1 that Kane Halliburton decided not to risk it. Go safe for P6 and see, with 4 laps to go now, see if he can get that P5 back.
Inside 5 laps to go, going to be 3 laps to go once they come across the stripe, and it's going to be very difficult, I think, for Halliburton to try to get that move done, because this, after he made that mistake, Alvin, it sort of separated this entire little pack, because Picario now has a little bit more breathing room than he did before, and Halliburton, I don't think he got corners number 1 and 2 done properly, because he's lost a bit of time to Greg Seitz as well, more than he probably should have, given how he gave up that position. So that second group has really calmed itself down after just that one incident. That one little mistake has made this what was a very close fight a little bit more spread out. We also have 2 drivers who are close, Justin Tipton and Jeremiah Morton. They're exiting corner number 2. That could be exciting as we come down to the final few laps, as we're inside of 3 laps to go.
Yeah, 3 laps to go and plenty of battles here going on, but I think this is pretty much trying to hope for a mistake from your opponent right here, because this track, like we've said, really hard to overtake. So for all these drivers, they're just really hoping for a mistake from the car in front, and perhaps that will be the opportunity that they are looking to go for the overtake.
Leaders now coming up into the final sector, quick right, quick left, and then downhill into the uphill braking zone for corner number 12. It might seem a little odd, and it definitely is, I think. Probably difficult to drive down the hill, get all the way down to the bottom, and have to get on the brakes. The brakes and tires are going to want to do weird things. Going to be 2 laps to go at the stripe for Arjon de Vries and Adam Rylance. Rylance trying everything he can to reel that gap in, harassing the mirrors of the one down the front straightaway, but I don't think that's going to pan out. He needs to just sit in the slipstream and try to make up time that way. As this second group has gotten formed back up, Picario, Seitz, and Halliburton was spread out a handful of laps to go, but they are close now as they work through corner number 2, P's number 4, 5, 6 on the racetrack, all basically under a blanket as they run off down into corner number 3 with about a lap and a half to go. Halliburton, who just made a mistake a couple laps ago, wants to get back into that top 5. Seitz, who's close to the back of Picario and would love a 4th. Picario, who wants anything but to lose 2 spots in the closing stages of this one.
Yeah, it is, and Andrew Picario really leading this group here, but not really by much. And Greg Seitz, he really looks like he wants to pounce into that P number 4, but also Kane Halliburton, yes, he lost P number 5, but he really wants to go into this fight. He wants that P5 back, and who knows, perhaps he will get even that P4 from Andrew Picario.
So your leaders now up into the final corner to bring out the white flag, and Arjon de Vries, this last time by, has done a good job of opening himself up a bit of breathing room this time. Andrew Picario, he's going to lead that second pack up the hill, and he's done the same for himself. Little bit of breathing room compared to Greg Seitz and Kane Halliburton as they come down this front straightaway. Look for Halliburton to maybe make a move on the 2 machine into corner number 1. We also have side by side behind between Tipton and Morton, so into corner number 1 they're going to go. Halliburton's not going to do it, but Morton, excuse me, he's got the inside, and he almost slides off the racetrack between corner number 1 and 2. 10 machine is able to make that move stick on Justin Tipton. Well done by him. Monitoring the race lead. As actually my timing and scoring got all messed up, sorry about that. But Arjon de Vries still leads the race here over Adam Rylands. Josh Anderson comfortably in third. Picario still on his own in fourth, with Sykes and Halliburton still racing for P number 5 and 6. They work themselves to turn number 6. Here do Sykes and Halliburton not really any good opportunities to try to make a pass here. He just has to try to get physical and get up the inside of the final corner. Your leaders now work through that final chicane and up into the final corner. It's going to take a big mistake from Arjan de Vries here to be able to lose this race, and he's not going to do it. Picture perfect off the final corner. Number 1 will take the win today at Oran Park, but Andrew Picario leads this second group up the final corner, and it's not a great run for the 9, but it's going to be more than good enough. These 3 are going to finish in order as they ran pretty much the last handful of laps. The 9, the 2, and the 6 will come home 4th, 5th, and 6th. Tipton and Morton, they traded spots on the last lap we saw in the corner number 1. For the most part, everybody else out and running on their own. Exciting final lap there, Alvin. Some close racing.
A little bit of close racing, but this is pretty much what we expected on a track like this. A very technical race from everybody. Yes, it was gonna take a big mistake if you really wanted to make a position here and there. We saw some mistakes from some drivers, but then at the end of the day, Arjan de Vries, yeah, he pretty much led from flag to flag. A little bit of controversy halfway through the race with Joshua Anderson, but nonetheless, Arjan de Vries came out with the win.
So let's go down your post-race results from round number 11 here in your Skip Barber Racing School Championship. Fantastic race for the one of Arjan de Vries. We've seen him a couple times this season, and he's been quick every time. He comes away with a pole and a victory here tonight. Adam Rylands comes home in second, with Joshua Anderson, Andrew Picario, and Greg Seitz rounding out your top 5. Kane Halliburton is 6th, Jeremiah Morton 7th, Justin Tipton 8th, Justin Smith 9th, and Cameron Dance rounds out your top 10. Rest of the finishers of this 18-car field are going to be coming up on your screen in a few moments' time. If you're not done watching iRacing just yet, we have race number 2 of our Wednesday race nights. The Raven Graphics and eSpeed Contender Series is back, and tonight we have the season opener, the Raven Graphics Daytona 300. New teams, new drivers, some big names taking part in that round 1 of 17 coming at you in just a few moments' time. Look for that here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. And next week in this championship, the season finale, we stay down under in Australia and we go to Bathurst for 10 laps in these little Formula 2000 cars. It's going to be exciting. From myself, Randy Chinnett, Hugo Louise, and Alvin Nieves, everyone at RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live, thank you for joining us. Hope to see you in a few minutes' time, tuning in for the Raven Graphics and eSpeed Contender Series, Raven Graphics 300. See you then.